In today's video, we are taking a look at my update 2022 Senate prediction as of today, July 9th of 2022. So let's get right into today's video, starting with the safe Democratic states, as always, Oregon, California, Hawaii, the state of New York, the state of Connecticut, the state of Vermont, and the state of Maryland. While for the Republican Party, Idaho, Utah, the Dakotas, Kansas, Oklahoma, the special election in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, Iowa, and South Carolina, as well as the state of Alaska in a race between two Republican candidates, Lisa Murkowski and Kelly Tshibaka. So that does give the Republicans 53 seats, to Democrats 43 seats, which gives 12 seats in the toss-up column that will be either likely lean or tilt for either political party. So these states could range from likely Democrat to likely Republican. I'm going to get rid of the three states I have as likely Democratic. Starting from Illinois, I do expect the Democrats to win this race. That being said, the margin I think will be 12, 13, maybe 14 points, not necessarily reaching that safe margin. Similarly, in the state of Washington, Pat Murray is not doing the best in the polls. She is up in some of them by margins of 5%. And I don't think there's been a single poll in the last 3 months that had her up by a margin of over 15 points, so it's going to be a likely margin for her. Finally, in the state of Colorado, Republicans nominated a more moderate candidate. That being said, this race is still not likely going to get Republican. In terms of the history in 2016, I mean, it was still a better environment for the Democratic Party, but the state has trended much more Democratic over the last 6 years, yet trending Democrat even at the moment we speak in. So yeah. Now for the likely states for the Republican Party, these states I don't expect the Democrats to really contest and pour millions of dollars in. Those states will be Ohio, North Carolina, and Florida. My margins are the description down below. And the state of Wisconsin as well. So starting from Florida, Marco Rubio, a pretty strong incumbent, won by 7.7 points. Really not going to have much of a challenge, especially in the environment like 2022. Similarly, in North Carolina, this could be closer, and this definitely would be closer in 2018 national environment, but in 2022, it's not going to be super good for the Republican Party, for the Democratic Party, considering Chair Beasley a okay candidate, but the Republicans, they did not nominate Pat McCrory, they nominated Ted Budd, which would help them in the general election, and I just don't think much is going for the Democratic Party as of this moment in time. Finally, Ohio, we have Rob Portman actually won by 20 points in the state of Ohio, despite Ron Paul in Kentucky and Indiana, with Todd Young winning by margins of likely margins. That being said, again, J.D. Vance is in this race. Rob Portman, the very popular incumbent, has retired, and Tim Ryan is still a decent candidate. So I do expect this margin to be single digits, but the Democrats really don't have much of a chance here. Going to the final likely Republican state, the state of Wisconsin, Democrats twice believed they could win it. First in 2010, Russ Feingold was not able to hold on to his seat, and in 2016, New York Times set this seat as the leading Democrat. It went to Ron Johnson yet again, so I do expect him to win re-election. So here are the final 5 states that I believe will be the states that are most contested in 2022. The states being Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, and New Hampshire. Not much of a surprise here. So starting from the first state, the state of Nevada, I do believe this race will be a lean seat for the Republican Party. I don't think Kevin Cortez Masto is really doing that well. He won by 2.4 points in 2016 with a total percentage of 47.1% of the vote. That's not even a majority. Again, the third parties did split away 8% of the vote, but it's not necessarily a very good side for Kevin Cortez Masto. If we look at the polls in the state of Nevada, I'm going to pull them up here. Oh, that's New Hampshire. That's another state we're going to... Oh, oops. So for Nevada, Right now, Kevin Cortez Masto is only up by 0.9%. That's not necessarily very good, and if you look at some of these polls that have Cortez Masto up by 21 points, many of these polls are just really unreliable in my opinion, and the latest poll that has Kevin Cortez Masto ahead is a Democratic funded poll. That being said, the McConnell and Associates poll is also funded by a Republican group. So you don't have much to see in the state of Nevada in terms of the polls. For the state of Arizona, I also expect the Republicans to win by only a tilt margin by, I think, less than 1%. Mark Kelly is a good candidate. He won in 2020. That being said, he did underperform the polls. And if we look at the polls right now, in terms of the polls right now, they do have Mark Kelly up by some of them by significant margins, alright? Some of them by as much as 17 points. But if we compare that to 2020, into the 2020 general election, many of the polls also had him up by 10 points, if not more, and the average number was about D+8. Kelly only ended up pulling that race by a margin of 2.4 points. So polls in Arizona in this particular Senate race in 2020 were not very accurate, and therefore take these numbers with a grain of salt. So the state of Georgia as well, I do give this seat towards the Republican Party by a lane margin. Herschel Walker, there has been some negative things that has came out for Herschel Walker, and Warnock is leading by 1.0 points on the polls, and Georgia polls are typically more accurate. That being said, a 1% margin is well within the margin of error, and yeah, the polls just, I believe, 2 weeks ago still had Walker ahead. So the polls they do fluctuate quite significantly, and again, one of these polls is funded by Future Majority, a sponsor from the Democratic Party from Change Research. Data for Progress, not the best poll. Quinnipiac University, Warnock plus 10. That's obviously not going to happen. So in the end, these polls, you do also have to take a grain of salt with them. So yeah, I'm not necessarily going to listen to polls. I'm going to put this as a lean seat for the Republican Party. And as well as that, the state of Pennsylvania, I do put this seat as a tilt seat for the Republican Party as well. Pat Toomey was able to win by 1.4% in 2016 in the same ballot that Trump won by 0.7%. So Toomey did do slightly better than Donald Trump in that race. And I think 2022 is not the environment for Democrats to win. And John Fetterman is still healing from that stroke he received, which would still have a relatively negative impact on that race, on his electability on that race. If we look at the state of Pennsylvania as well, Fetterman has been leading the polls, but again, like what the 5 out of the 8 polls that have been released in Pennsylvania is Democratic funded, so we can't really get much from there as well. And finally, the state of New Hampshire, I do have this race going to the Democratic Party by a lead margin. Looking at this, I mean, in this race, the Democrats also, according to the polls, have an advantage over the Republicans in some races some polls by significant advantages, by significant margins. That being said, you can see that the latest polls, they have tightened relatively to the older polls as name recognition for the both of these sides build. And looking at this again, still Hassan has the lead. It's a near lead, but for sure in like 15 polls, the Republicans are only ahead in one of them. So given all that, I do expect the Democrats to win by a lean to tilt margin in the state of New Hampshire. So thanks for watching today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and see you guys all tomorrow or my next video, and bye.